Well. Episode 4. There may be a little adult language. Other than that, we got a lot to do. Let's get to it. Oh, prime time. Morning. Plenty of coffee. I'm ready to go. We got a lot to talk about today. Hey, it's the first time I'm not going to be alone. We got a couple guests, kind of maybe a third. But hey, we don't have any time to waste on how's your day going? Good, how's your day? How was work? Don't have time for that. We're going to talk a little bit about James Bond, 007. Heard of it? From Stern. We are going to try something from the Pinball Pantry. We are going to talk about a game called Twilight Zone. Give my thoughts on that. And then, of course, a lot of random little things here or there. But again, no time to waste. Let's get to it. Well, it's a pleasure, as always, to have you back here at the Pinball Party. This is episode 4. My name is Jason, your host. We talk all things pinball, from rumors, speculation, news, personal opinions, reviews of games, and other fun things along the way. Before we get going into some of the planned content, let me just make a couple corrections. One of my good buddies, John, reached out after listening to one of the podcasts and totally called me out in a good way on a correction. On episode 1, I was reviewing Stern's Star Trek. I was referencing their weapons, and I called them proton torpedoes. Idiot! They're photon torpedoes. He surmised accurately, your head has been in Ghostbusters too much lately. Not proton packs, photon torpedoes. Well, I guess when I get to the Ghostbusters review, who knows, 14 episodes from now, something like that, I will call them photon packs. Thanks, John. Good call. As a Star Trek fan, he knew I should know what I'm talking about. And I didn't. Now I do.
Idiot.
Number 2 in the corrections list, I referenced Stern Pinball as Stern Electronics.
Idiot.
Incorrect. They are, in fact, Stern Pinball. Stern Electronics was a name of a company who manufactured arcade video games and pinball machines from 1977 to 1985, according to Wikipedia. Stern Pinball Incorporated is the Stern we know and love today, making all the great games such as Godzilla, Iron Maiden, Black Knight Sword of Rage, and your newest, James Bond 007. All right, corrections out of the way. Let's just assume I know what I'm talking about from here on out. This I do know what I'm talking about for sure, because it involves me personally. There is another pinball podcast called Final Round Pinball Podcast. The greatest pinball podcast of all time. That's not what I'm here to debate. We all know that's a fact. They were gracious enough to give me a call out last week.
So Jason from Wisconsin has started a new podcast. It's called the Pinball Party. And he gave us kind of a shout out. Here it is.
I listened to Final Round, one of my favorites of all time. Fuck those guys, they suck, but please keep making more shows.
I feel like we are the inspiration for his podcast, because basically we didn't put out a show. So he sent us a note saying, well, fuck it, I'm going to do one anyway.
My Mondays to Thursdays are ruined because there aren't enough podcasts, so I'm going to fill the void. So he's on the second podcast now. Give it a chance. Pinball Party.
It's hilarious.
Jason, there you go, you son of a bitch. You got your plug.
Fucker.
And because of their 6 trillion listeners, that call out generated me 10.5 billion additional listens. Monetizing my podcast as I do, I quickly became a millionaire. Within 2 days, I took $20 million from Final Round's shout out, Final Round podcast on the Pinball Network. I took those millions and I purchased a robot. And not just any robot. Because I have so much money, I said, I want this robot to be a combination of Jeff Teolis and Marty Robbins from an intellectual and personality standpoint. They said, okay, yes, sir. Thank you for the millions of dollars. We'll have that ready for you. I wait graciously, I think it was 24 hours for these fucks to finish my robot. I get the robot, and they say, hey, it's everything you wanted, but actually to get the full breadth of their personality and intelligence, that would cost $2 billion. They said, we got some of it in here. We think you'll be happy, but I was like, well, hey, I'll take what I can get. Beggars can't be choosers. Thank you for the robot. Let's go. I get the robot home. I turn him on. I'm like, what do I name you? Okay, well, a good combination of Jeff and Marty is obviously Meff. So I would like to bring on my first guest, Meff, the robot funded by the Final Round Pinball Podcast shoutout. Hey, Meff, how you doing?
Hello, you wanker. I'm doing well, but my fly is down.
Okay, well, I guess they got that accurate. Did they maintain Jeff and Marty's love of pinball? Are you a huge fan of pinball?
Yes, of course, but not as much as I like hockey and kangaroos, mate.
Right. I guess, is that it?
I also know a lot about stand-up comedy.
What the fuck?
Hey.
I think they just took like the podcast and put it into an AI generator and made a fuck.
Twat.
Kind of like deep fake.
Fuck.
Well, I guess if what you were programmed was a love of pinball and I guess comedy and kangaroos and hockey, is there anything that you want to talk about?
Cannot compute, mate.
Yeah, right. Sorry, they said your intelligence would be a bit low. Beyond pinball, hockey, and kangaroos, what else goes through your mind?
What are you on about?
Is there anything else that you're thinking about right now?
I dream about mermaids and stand-up comedy.
All right, so no, okay.
Shut the fuck up, mate.
Jesus, dude. All right. I think we're good.
Cannot compute.
All right, where's your off button, man? God.
Fuck.
Jeez. All right. They weren't kidding. I don't think he's ready for casting quite yet. Maybe we'll check in with him again in the future. Anyway, let's get on to James Bond 007 from Stern Pinball. Just like anything this day and age, after something is announced, things are leaked on the internet. James Bond 007 set to be revealed yesterday morning in the UK. That reveal was since postponed due to Queen Elizabeth's passing. My condolences to those across the pond and stateside. Even though the delay of announcement was out of respect for the mourning going on, more so over there, I should say, the release seems to be still on schedule of the actual production of the game, which it sounds like the end of September, early October is when we'll actually start seeing them either on site or in people's homes. And before we get to see the reveal, it sounds like tomorrow again, of better images, probably a video, and some actual gameplay, we do have some blurry yet somewhat good images to speculate on. Now, I'm not the biggest James Bond fan, nor am I a super speculator that obsesses over every little wire form and VUC and what does exactly that mean. Oh, I know it's this and the drop target because of that. No, I look at pictures, and if it does something for me, maybe I'll look a little deeper. I can tell what a ramp is, but these images that you can find on Pinside, I'll link the link in the show notes directly to an image pool of where you can see these. Some of them are the premium model and some are the pro. There's still, again, speculation of the price and is there a super LE model behind the LE. We do know that it is a George Gomez game. Not sure who the coder is, but I think I might have an idea looking at some of this. Don't know who the sound is. But you can very much tell, first and foremost, it's a George Gomez game. For me, specifically, because of the ramp on the right. When you're looking at the playfield, there's this ramp on the right that looks oh so similar to the ramp on the left of Deadpool, and very similar to the sword ramp on Lord of the Rings on the right. It's not the same. There's a diverter and it's 2 ramps coming into one, but you can see his signature all over that. I urge everyone, as opposed to just listening to me talk about the playfield, I'm not going to be as descriptive maybe as you want me to be. Take a look at these pictures yourself. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? Well, before we get more into the playfield, the cabinet art. Now, the premium, which you can first tell right from looking at the machine, that where the rocket ship is in the back, the premium has a wire form kind of spiraling up it. The Pro does not. The premium cabinet art looks to have movie posters scattered throughout it with kind of a bluish teal background, which, it's fine. It's kind of like a movie theater background and makes sense. It's a movie-themed pin. The Pro is yellow. There aren't a ton more shots of the Pro cabinet, so that's all I know is it's yellow and there's a few faces on it. But cabinet aside, who cares? Playfield, what does it matter? Well, it looks like, as aforementioned, the premium has a very different, I'm guessing a lock mechanism on this rocket ship on the left. Upper left of the playfield, there's this rocket ship, where on the Pro, there's this rocket ship sticking out with a bunch of foam. I'm assuming that's just for transporting it across the seas. And on the premium, there's this wire form that kind of goes up it and goes to this behind mechanism, like a kind of a building in Godzilla. Assuming it's a lock, a physical lock on the premium for a multi-ball, and the Pro, it's just a shot lock. Another difference, it seems, and I could be wrong on this, but the premium has this kind of floating James Bond figure on a jetpack, similar to the Slimer on Ghostbusters. It looks like he's floating up there, and then something happens, and it'll trigger him to do something. There's speculation because of this thing in the center that looks like maybe a magnet. This elevated, well, it's a stand-up target, maybe a magnet, that maybe another ball lock is because he's on a jetpack, he can grab the ball and drop it there, which would be cool. Again, we haven't seen video. I could totally be wrong, but on the Pro, it looks like instead of a moving jetpacker, it's just a stand-up, like 2D plastic in the back, or maybe that mech isn't even there. Well, yeah, there's no arm that goes back into the playfield. So 2 differences there. Who knows how much it'll affect gameplay? Knowing Gomez in the past, at least from my experience, well, Lord of the Rings aside, which there's basically no difference between the regular and the LE. As far as, in fact, there's less on the LE, aside from the double clear coat on Lord of the Rings. Deadpool, they are so similar. Would I like a premium? Yes, but there is so minor differences between a Pro and a premium, you can't really go wrong. Will that ideal be replicated here? Who knows? I hope so. With prices increasing, and again, we still don't know the new price. Maybe you will by the time you're listening to this. I hope the differences become less and less and less, because Pros are now at the price of a premium, but 6-7 years ago? We're getting close to pricing out, boys. We'll see what happens. There's Bond girls on the playfield art. There's James Bond, surprise, on the playfield art. It's this very retro kind of 60s looking, very scattered throughout, almost industrial, not, nothing against the artist. I think, the art is fine. It doesn't seem like a big one-piece conglomerate is one, like a poster and everything is intertwined. Looks like just kind of placed here, placed there, placed here. Again, I'm going off the images I see. It could be much better than that when we see high res or we see gameplay. But one thing is for sure, there is a lot of playfield multipliers up where the Bond girls are. This would, lend me to think it would be Dwight coding it. But, he did Mando recently. And with Star Wars, that guy loves his multipliers. I mean, the amount of multipliers you can get on Star Wars alone is astronomical. And I guess with Gomez on Deadpool, there is a very strong multiplier component as well. However, that one is much harder to get, I guess, consistently with the snick shot. I kind of want to leave it there, to just leave a little bit more to be desired. I can only look at these pictures, and I urge you to do the same. There's some cabinet shots. There's a guy with his hand in there, messing with a mech. There's some lights on. I want to see the reveal from Stern. I want to hear the sounds. I want to see the gameplay before I make any sort of decision, because this doesn't tell me anything. Does it tell me that it's as empty as Star Wars Pro? It tells me that it is not, in fact, as empty as a Star Wars Pro. So that passes the first test. Second, does it look like there are some new mechs here, or maybe something outside of the box? I think yes. The layout is somewhat unique. I'm more, again, I guess, interested in the premium to see what that that jetpack guy does, that jetpack Bond does, and what this car lock on the right does. Again, let's wait and see. But hey, we got some pictures. If you want to see what they are, go out there and check them out. Until next time, that's all we're going to speculate on Bond 007 for now. I'm looking forward to the reveal. Well, if talking about Spooky the first couple episodes wasn't enough, let's talk about him very briefly again. I mentioned that I signed up for the Fan Club membership in March in anticipation for the announcement of TNA 2.0, which I'm disappointed with the price. I've talked about that enough. However, yesterday, I received my Fan Club welcome kit. Yeah, it's a goblet, which is actually pretty cool, a sparkly dark goblet, very heavy duty, about, 10 inches tall, with a can koozie and a little card that says, put your name here, welcome to the club, blah, blah, blah. And hey, I don't know if it was my posts on Pinside or my podcast saying I haven't got my gift, but they sent it. Too little, too late? Maybe, maybe not. But hey, just wanted to be fair. I got it. Thank you, Spooky. All right, before we talk about Twilight Zone, a game you've probably never heard of, I want to bring in my first, I guess Meff counts, my second guest who had a great idea for this show. Let's find out who it is.
I hope I don't gag, I hope I don't choke, I hope I don't puke in the pinball pantry. Blech.
Well, so I guess this was your idea.
I know, I'm paying for it now.
Well, welcome to the first edition of the Pinball Pantry. And with me is my lovely wife, Dana.
Hi guys.
So I guess tell everyone what your idea was last week and that we're gonna do.
So I don't remember the original idea because I think you just took a random thought of mine and ran with it.
You came home and said,
I'm gonna bring you weird shit and you're gonna try it on your podcast.
Yeah. Well, right. So we went through names of Dana's bad ideas to Dana's dumpster dive. And then Dana's diner was the one going up till today, but I think it's going to be Pinball Pantry. So your idea was like, have me try stuff that seems out of the ordinary or gross or, I guess technically edible, but maybe not edible to the lay person or that everyone would want to buy. So I guess we'll do it for them. Does that sum it up?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I think we're starting it out easy this time, though.
And I guess right before we started recording, you said maybe give these things a rating?
Yeah. Like giving it like 1 out of 5 balls or flippers. I don't know, I don't know much about pinball except balls.
Well, no, I think balls will work just fine. So before we get to the first item on the menu, tell people how you have any relation to pinball, if any.
Like before it was forced on me.
That's a good place to start. How was it forced on you?
Well, you just bring home different pinball machines like every week, and then sell them to the point where our bank thinks that we're mobsters.
Because of the cash that comes in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess so if this is being forced on you, of all the machines that I've gone through, what has been your favorite? Or I mean a top 2 or 3, whatever.
I think Star Trek.
Star Trek?
Yeah.
And was it the first one or the one behind us, the LE? Is it do you notice a big difference?
Didn't you have the same one?
Yeah.
A few times?
Uh-huh. But that was all Pro, and this is the LE, which has, the extra lights and all that stuff.
Okay.
Do you does one do any better, or they're the same to you?
This one's prettier. I think. Yeah.
Well, hey, okay. Got that going, I guess. Any others come to mind out of all the ones that, I guess...
I like Metallica, too.
All right. Any others that stood out, or the rest just like you don't care?
I don't know if this is a bad opinion. What was that
No
one, that
opinion is
older
bad.
one you had? That one sucked.
The older one, that's the one I'm actually going to review today.
Okay.
Twilight Zone?
Okay, well, you don't need to review it. I'll review it right now.
Okay.
It sucks,
Okay.
and it's rigged, and the ball just goes right down the middle, and you lose right away. That's the review.
Ah, perfect.
0 out of 5 balls.
0 out of 5 balls. Okay, well, so you're saying these things that I try in the Pinball Pantry, or we try together. Because I said if we're going to do your idea, you're joining me.
Yeah.
So we're each going to try this stuff. Why don't you tell everyone what the first item on the menu is?
Because I'm a sucker for everything Halloween, I happened across this Voodoo Mountain Dew, the limited edition 2022 version.
What does it say on the top?
It says mystery flavor.
So we apparently we don't know what it's going to taste like. All right. Well, it's a orange and reddish can. It's got some, I guess Halloween ghost stuff going on, as you'd expect.
It's a pretty can.
It's a pretty can. And it's not diet or zero like what I normally would drink, or you don't really drink this anymore.
I don't drink pop. Yuck.
You drink fizzy water.
I drink sparkling water.
Yuck. Okay. This is a regular recipe. 2022 Mountain Dew Voodoo. And none of us have tried it. We're going to share a can because we're so in love.
Yeah, we are.
We can share germs.
We like to share germs.
Yep. So we're going to, 1 can, 2 people. Do you want to go? You should go first.
Okay.
You should go first.
So am I supposed to rate it, or am I supposed to guess the flavor?
Oh, well, this one's a little different because they're not all going to be a mystery flavor. This one, I'd say we'll use your rating system of balls out of 5, as in buy it again. Would we recommend someone to, whatever out of 5 balls? Guessing the flavor is just a side hustle or a mini game of this. Here we go. Is it? Because you were saying last year the mystery flavor was like candy corn.
I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. One of them was.
Well,
and
I
it was
also
disgusting. 0 balls.
And I haven't had a sugar soda in 10 years. So even just the sugar is like giving me... honest. Okay, I need another sip.
I've got like the top notes, but the aftertaste is throwing me.
I think I know the mystery flavor, or what I think it is. Do you want to go first?
I was going to say it tastes like those sprees.
Aha!
Is that
I was going to say sprees. Sprees. Yeah.
But the aftertaste is fucked.
Well, yeah, all of these, the aftertaste is terrible.
No, there's something else.
I think it's sprees.
Going on.
It has that really fruity, like as soon as you have a spree, it's sprees. It has to be sprees. Let's market sprees, dude. So before it comes out on the internet or whoever else,
it's probably on the internet already,
well,
sweetie.
fuck it. I don't care. All right. So if you're rating, subject to change if we change this out of balls, but...
Wait! It might not be sprees.
What do you think it would be?
Sour Patch Kids.
You have a sour taste in there?
Yeah. There's definitely like a tangy zing.
Okay. Ooh. Yeah.
I'm changing my answer.
Well, after that sip, I'm now maybe thinking Sour Patch Kids. All right, well, I'm going to stick with sprees just because, their first reaction is usually the most accurate. I'm going to go with sprees.
Okay, I'm going to say Sour Patch Kids.
All right, well, if someone wants a rating of balls on this one, out of how many balls would I give this? I guess the scale being 5 out of 5 balls. If we're in the soda world, a 5 out of 5 balls would be like a classic Mountain Dew, or to a lot of people, just a Coca-Cola, or maybe a Diet Coke for all the moms, or me. Or 0 would be like Diet Surge.
I hate
or
soda, so I
Diet
don't know.
Faygo Grape. I don't know. I could drink it. I take it 3 balls. I'll give it 3 balls out of 5.
Can we do half balls, or is that just grotesque?
We can do half balls. I mean, some of us.
I do like the taste of it. If it were a candy,
Yeah.
I would enjoy it. So I'm going to give it 3.5 balls.
3.5 balls. All right. Well, we're pretty close on that. 3.5 balls for the 2022 Mountain Dew Voodoo mystery flavor soda. Well, there we go. That's the first Pinball Pantry with Dana. Thanks for joining me. I guess we'll see you again next week or hear you again. Do you want to?
Yeah, I might run away before next week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you want to give a hint of what I actually know what we're trying next time?
Yeah, I mean, I might actually die.
So it's slightly a dangerous thing to try.
It's, I guess, depending on the person. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's their teaser that it's something you could maybe die from. And thanks for telling everyone your score of what you say 0 balls for Twilight Zone. And Star Trek is your favorite game that you've seen through here. And you don't give a shit between the Pro and the LE. So I guess everyone out there who's got a Pro, good for you. I'm the sucker. All right. See you next time.
I hope I don't gag, I hope I don't choke, I hope I don't puke in the pinball pantry. Blech.
Well, it turns out the rumors are true. I do have friends. To actually talk about Twilight Zone today, I'm bringing in one of my good friends, Sam. I'll let him, introduce his pinball life. I met him through work about, I'd say, 10 years ago. And honestly, one of the true friends I've actually met through work. I remember we were assigned back when we both worked in support all these years ago. We work at a software company. We were assigned to each other. And we were just talking about who knows what, and it came onto the subject of a MAME arcade cabinet I had just finished building, and he was asking a lot of questions, actually good questions. Like he seemed kind of knowledgeable in that area, and the conversation led to a point that he actually owns Addams Family Pinball, and I was like, oh shit, really? Like, okay. So I knew right away, okay, if this person owns a pinball machine, I can skip all the, are you actually a pinball person? Or are you just, that? Okay, he is. So we went right into just talking about our love of pinball, the history, and all that. Both growing up in the same area, we had a lot of shared history in that. And the first time I had a friend come with me to buy a game was Sam. And I figured, what better way to review this game than with my good buddy Sam. Welcome to the show, Sam. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, before we get into our adventure of getting this game, give me your history on when did you get into pinball? Have you always been into pinball? What's that like?
As aforementioned, I am an owner of the Addams Family Pinball machine. I actually got that game, I believe, in 2005, shipped from Buenos Aires, Argentina, purchased on eBay, and picked up at the Minneapolis airport freight shipping. All in all, it saved me about $500 or $600 from buying it stateside. It's a great game. Call back to episode 1. I'm one of the bolt to the floor guys who will only play one game his whole life.
Yeah.
And be quite happy shooting bear kicks until I die. So
wait, when you bought it, do you remember how much it was back then?
I got it for, I have to find the receipt, but it was under $3,000. They were going stateside about $3,000 that time. And
jeez.
The internet can probably prove me right or wrong on my shaky and foggy memory. But I believe I got it in the $2,500 range.
God.
Back then.
Well, yeah, I guess as someone who's bolting, if you want to make a quick $10,000, just unbolt it.
Yeah, exactly. It's I will be homeless with that on a skateboard. That'll be the last possession I part ways with. I started with pinball as a kid. My uncle had a bunch of machines, like 50s and a few newer. I had a grandfather that had machines. He had this game called 8-Ball Deluxe.
Yeah.
And it was quite good. Kind of some of the first digital displays in it. Had this little drop shot 8-ball corner pocket. So I played that all the time as a kid. Growing up, a little bit older than Jason, born in the end of the 70s. In the 90s, that's kind of like a heyday of pinball. A Eau Claire establishment, not mentioned, Mini Putter, is where I spent all of my time.
Fishtails.
Yeah. A bunch of other things.
Yeah.
They had Funhouse mostly.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of my youth playing those games simply out of kind of like a competitive frugal thing. We'd always go to the arcades and people would spend $5, $10, and I would just kind of like the concept that I could put in 50 cents and spend 2 hours playing if I was good enough.
Right.
And so that led to kind of learning all the rules of games, learning the best way to beat games, and just trying to like break down a game. So Funhouse was the first game I did with that, where I just owned the scoreboard on that and could just play forever. Just kind of like hitting Rudy, hitting loops, and getting the muscle memory for that. And then Addams Family obviously was the one in the 90s that I liked the most. I liked the movie, and I kind of set out as an adult to be, that's the one I would purchase. Oh, and I should throw in, I also had fishtails in my house as a kid. My parents bought that, and so I played the life out of fishtails as well.
Did it have the working like topper thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody in our house would know that I was having a good game because the fish just goes insane. You get monster fish, you kind of like complete the stringer, and like when you really get into wizard mode of that game, the fish basically just like loudly smacks back and forth like the whole time because you're just triggering it. So great game.
Yeah, and I guess the reason to have you on this, other than just to not talk to myself all the time, is I remember it was, I guess my fourth game then was, Twilight Zone. And I knew, any of us who like Addams Family also knew Twilight Zone is kind of like the brother and sister, the same game, Well, very, very similar. They were all in the same location, same era. But there was this guy in Minneapolis, it ended up being, there was one of those like slow texters. It was for sale. You send them a message, and they wait like 3 days to get back to you. They dry text, like just say like yes, no punctuation, no capital letters. And in the end, it was just getting like a sketchy vibe from this guy. That's point one. Two was it was a wide body, and I didn't think I could fit it in my car. So I remember texting you or talking to you at work, like, hey, can you go with me and pick this thing up? Because I'm getting a weird vibe from this guy. I don't know if I could fit it. He's given me no answers on if we have to carry this out. Does he adopt like whatever? So I figured since you were the first person to go with me to pick up a game, let's talk about this game together. I remember asking you to go, and do you still have that minivan that we used?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Odyssey, 2005 Honda Odyssey.
Yes.
Acquired when I had twins.
Yeah.
We call it Vando, as a riff on Mando.
Okay.
So Vando's alive and well. It's about to cross 200,000 miles.
Beautiful.
And has moved the Addams Family many a time.
I remember we go there, we drive up, and like same thing. He wouldn't send me a text for like, you're like, hey, I'm on my way. Here's my ETA. And they wait like an hour to send you back a text like, K. Like, cool, man. What the hell? And I remember pulling up, and it was a really nice house. He's like, park in the back. So we went to the back, but there was no like back. It was just like, what do you mean the back? It's like, oh, it's across the field kind of shit, or like, all right, whatever. So we kind of just pulled in this kind of like, seemed like a woods trail that we backed up in, like, I guess, all right. So then we walked around to the front, knock on his door, go in there, and he seemed like a nice guy, kind of weird, older gentleman. Maybe, maybe I'd peg him in his 50s, let's say. I guess at least still older than us. We can still say that. Go in his house, go in his basement, and he had, I guess all I remember was Twilight Zone and Indiana Jones, right? Did he have? Oh, yeah. I offered to buy it. That's right. The Indiana Jones. He wasn't having that. He was not having that. Yeah. All right. So we're parked across this field. How are we? Do you have a dolly? No. Okay. So I guess we're just fucking muling this thing. Yeah. All right. And that wide body Bally Williams dense wood machine was carried with all four legs on it. I don't know how many yards. I'd say a football field. 100 yards? Yeah. I can fill in some of these details. Please do. Is a very unprepared corporate guy who is just kind of trying to offload his toys. Yeah. And he tells us to park in this just total nowhere little grass dirt road off his property that is easily 100 yards from his actual home. Yeah.
And this is because this home has like hills and all this stuff, and like we can't carry it up the multiple levels. He's like, well, it'd be easier if you carry it out of the back of the house. Back of the house is this big wood deck that, of course, has like 2 or 3 steps that are just enough to trip you up carrying a machine.
Yeah.
And we had to take that thing through doors, across this wood deck, and then across this huge grass field. And my recollection was the game weighed about 1,000 pounds.
That's about right.
The internet says 250 pounds, which I thought was outlandish.
Yeah.
But the awkwardness of the wide body, the awkwardness of having the legs on it over uneven terrain. So like the lawn isn't smooth. So like you'd catch a leg and you have to like lift it up very high. So it was kind of like a weird like shoulder deadlift kind of that you had to do the whole way. It was.
So you got like 1,000 pounds. It was divided by 2. We each have 500 pounds on the tippy tops of our fingers, and we're waddling this thing because once you lift it, you have like 3 inches of clearance to just waddle. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his son or his friends were kind of like, I don't know, playing some sort of game, football or something, and kind of like running around us, like having a good time, and we're just sitting there like carrying this 1,000-pound beast. Yeah. Get the fuck out of here, kids. We're dying here.
Least helpful. I think that's also in kind of classic human fashion when we realized you should come prepared with wrap and dollies and ties.
Which we did not. No, we,
no,
you know.
This is a true pleb mission.
Yeah.
Just showing up in a minivan, parking in the back, and just kind of caveman grunting it out of the house.
We have no choice at that point. Like, we came to get it. We gotta leave with this thing. We got it to the van. My fingers hurt like shit. Thank you for all the help. That was awesome. And, you know, again, foreshadowing. I didn't keep that game long, so was it worth it? I don't know, maybe. But let's talk about the actual game. I know this is a classic to everyone, including myself, and probably to you. It maybe not be, you know, if it came out today, would it hold up? I don't know. We'll talk about it. But I'll have you start on each because you're my guest of honor. Rating out of 10, 0 to 10. Give your thoughts on it, and feel free to add any detail that you want. Let's start with theme. What does the theme do for you? What would you, Twilight Zone, is that an IP you care about? You give a shit about? What do you think?
Definitely not IP I care about. I was aware of it when it came out in the 90s. Like, you know, I knew it was like a black and white show. Like, we're back in the day when they had this thing called Nick at Night for Nickelodeon, and they would kind of run Twilight Zone way late. So I had some awareness of the theme. I didn't really care about the theme. Got it back to a previous episode, game designers. I knew Pat Lawler had done Addams Family.
Right.
And so that was kind of an interest point for Twilight Zone, was that it was very similar. I would say there's a lot of kind of similarities between the two games. I don't think he tried to like reinvent the wheel from his most successful game.
Yep.
But theme-wise, you know, I definitely agree with you that that IP has fallen off. So like it would have less and less relevance. But the premise itself, I think, makes for a fun game. That you're kind of in like a parallel realms. The machine can be crazy. I think regardless if you knew what the Twilight Zone, the theme would translate to anybody who didn't know what it was.
Right.
And I can't say that for every kind of like theme-based thing. Like if you didn't know a band or like some of these other things, it might not go as well as just this idea of like, hey, I'm playing kind of like a spooky, you know, kind of like mystery place. So, you know, theme, I might give it like an 8. Like, just because it translates well to pinball. But I don't think it's one of the best themed games, just because it's obscure.
Yeah, I would agree with especially your last point of regardless of the IP, let's say, it's very clear that this game is something like expect the unexpected. It's spooky. It's a little metaphysical. You know, like you mentioned, the Pat Lawler, there's a lot of similar things, like the magnets and the Powerball. They both have the very much... It's kind of a spooky theme where Addams Family adds a little comedy to it. Twilight Zone takes itself a little more serious. And, you know, not to, I guess, copy the guest, but I would also say 8. I had awareness of it, black and white, Nick at Night, all that kind of stuff. And the theme was not necessarily like similar for me and James Bond. It's not like, oh, I absolutely love it. But it's like, all right, I respect it enough. I can, it seems to pass the sniff test. So it's got to be good for a reason. And, that was the first time probably the pinball machine actually made me think positive of Twilight Zone, because before that it was just what's his name? The announcer is just synonymous with the show. I think taking the IP aside, when someone thinks of pinball that is from our age-ish, give or take 10 years, they're thinking of Addams Family, Twilight Zone, and then you have some of the auxiliary. I think those two are almost everyone's thinking of those. And then you have Attack from Mars, Funhouse, as you mentioned, Tales of Arabian Nights, all those kind of float around as auxiliary. But all right, let's go right into gameplay. As you started mentioning about Pat Lawler and some of the way the theme actually lends itself well to the gameplay. What would you say is your score on gameplay overall, which would include the way it feels when you shoot it, the actual shots, all that?
I would say this is where the game kind of gets its rep for being like a highly rated game. And I would probably put it at a 9. Some of the things I really like about it, multiple flipper games can be hard to pull off. If you have flippers in the upper playfield, sometimes they just prove more chaotic, or they're kind of a sucker to make you get a drain shot. The flippers in Twilight Zone have very specific shots to hit that if you can get good at those upper playfield shots, kind of like the piano player shot, you can really kind of take your game to the next level. So as far as the gameplay wise, if you're a more skilled player, it offers some higher level of, timing, attention, when multi-ball's going on, knowing when to kind of like flip into the piano instead of like flipping the bottom flippers. There's a nice flow to it as well as some complexity. So that's kind of why I'm putting the gameplay at a 9. That to actually beat the game, you have to hit good winning shots that trigger things from multiple angles. Up in the playing field, left flipper, right flipper. There's a number of different timings that you have to get right. So
yeah, this one I somewhat struggle with. Back in the day, when again that Addams Family area, or the playing at Wagner's or whatever, smoking cigs and playing pinball, this was one of the least favorite games to me. I mean, it was always taken up, always crowded, people were always playing it, and I remember just overhearing stuff about Powerball, or the call outs are just stuck in my head.
You have come to the end of your journey. This is no ordinary gumball machine.
But for us, when we played most of the time spending Addams Family and Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, Twilight Zone to me was almost very enigmatic in that way, where I just didn't play it enough, and when I did, it just kicked my ass. It drained all the time, and the rules I feel different about. I'll talk in a second. Like gameplay, like actual feel. Like, do I like shooting the game? There's like 2 shots I enjoy, in like the main, I guess, left ramp, if that's even that really small ramp, I enjoy, and the clock, or not the clock, the camera shot, was that with the right flipper, or the third flipper? But everything else always felt, well, I mean, getting up in the lower playfield I like, and it's going to be stark contrast to the rules, which I think is what elevates this game. For me, the gameplay is a 7. If I compare it to, back then, it was probably even lower. To me, it was like a 4. Now, this day and age where I know what I personally like, which is not a lot of stop and go, which this game I think is, like hit it in the scoop, it sits there, it does thing, hit it in the camera, sits, it does thing, get up, I like a lot more flow and ramps and speed, and I like a game to really kick my ass in a different way, where this game kicks my ass in just kind of I can't hit the shots. I don't know if I just never took the time to really get the geometry of it. For me, it's a 7. We'll talk in a second about rules, but so shots aside, what do you think of the overall rules and how this game progresses and all that?
This one I would say, and probably going to give it a lower rating. I would say this is the start of complex pinball games. And what you're saying from your youth lines up with most people's opinions. When you get right up to it, it's not entirely clear how to string together shots to make something happen. It has multiple ways to trigger some things. That upper thing is called Battle to Power. That's what it was called. But that can trigger the door. The slot machine can trigger the door. The piano player can trigger the door. So unlike an Addams Family where like the electric chair is triggering the mansion and like maybe occasionally like the swamp or some of these other things, it's pretty clear there's a flashing light. Twilight Zone, it is not very clear how to string together shots until you play it quite a bit. So for rules, I'm going to give it a 6. Once you get to know them, it's good, but it takes a lot of explaining to someone for them to actually get what they're supposed to do with the game. And I think that's kind of a downgrade. If your rules are so complicated that it takes like a dozen games to figure it out, you probably don't have great rules.
Yeah. And I'm, as much as I dislike the stop and go shots of this game, I actually like that, similar to Addams Family, and again, because of Pat Lawler, although it was stop and go, each little mode was completely different to where, you know, from the gumball machine to the hitchhiker shot, the camera shot, the powers, everything was different. So for me, although I didn't know the deep rules back then, and still to this day, I just haven't taken the time, even when I owned it, because I just didn't, you know, the way it feels to me, you know, the shots just aren't there. It holds a special place in my heart, but comparing it to modern day Stearns or games with like almost video game level complexity, the rules were very novel. And I thought that it was clear that here's the big rectangle in the center, here's the modes, regardless of how to start them and how to complete them, which most of the callouts back then were pretty accurate in telling you what to do. I did understand intuitively, like, fill this whole sheet out, do all these modes, you'll get to the wizard mode. And back then, that's all I gave a shit about. I just want to get to the wizard mode. I want to crack it. I just want, like you said, I want free games. I'm just doing this because it's economically the smart way to play games right now when you only have 50 cents. So although like the gameplay I felt was a 7, I actually thought the rules, I won't jump them up to a 10 or anything, but for me the rules are an 8. Forgive me, what did you give the rules? I didn't write it down.
I downgraded to a 6. And I'll say people that play Addams Family think the rules are probably better because of like how similar it is. Like if you've never played Addams Family, filling up the door is not like an obvious like way to wizard mode.
Yeah.
Anyways, 6.
Yeah. Okay.
I historically have like played with people that are confused by Twilight Zone.
Sure.
Which isn't true for every game.
Yep. All right. Visuals. It's somewhat unfair, I think, back in the day. Maybe they didn't take art or visuals as seriously as they do these days, but not to get into my thoughts. What do you think as far as the art and the playfield or just the visuals of the game and all that?
I would say visuals are somewhat lower. They went really in on toys. So like the gumball machine, like I said, the piano player, some of these other things, that visual aspect is very fun. The kind of like backlash and some of that other stuff is pretty boring. It's just a guy in front of a door, not very creative or enticing compared to other machines.
Yeah.
So because it has a lot of fun toys in it, I do think it attracts the eye somewhat.
Sure.
But I'll probably give this thing a 6 as well. Just because the cabinet is really kind of pretty stock. Like the backlash in the cabinet don't jump out to you. The playing field itself has a lot of draw to it, but that's why I'm kind of going to give it a 6. I don't think it like pulls everything together. Okay.
I'm not far off. In fact, I'm a little lower. If it weren't for the back glass, which to me is just like an iconic, it's like seeing the symbol of, Mountain Dew or Captain Crunch. You're just like, oh, it's Twilight Zone. It's so iconic. Him standing in the door, you kind of have pieces of the game in there. You have the pyramid, the gumball machine. You have all the the clock. You have all that like in the translate, which is pretty cool. And the more back then, the more you look at, there's more to see. But I think the playfield is just atrocious when it comes to art. There's just nothing there. There's that guy by the camera. He's got his a thumbs up, like okay, or the hitchhiker, I guess. Right? Is that a hitchhiker? I think that's supposed to be a hitchhiker.
Yeah. There's so many toys. That's why I think like the playing field just doesn't even have space for artwork.
Yeah. I'm going 5, and the only reason it's not lower is because of the backlight. I mean, take just the playfield alone. If I was walking up to this and I knew nothing about it, I'd say it's a 2. But I'm going to give it a 5 for visuals. And for me, the lighting back then, other than battling the power, which I think was cool, there's some flashes going on when you're doing that. Whatever. All right, how about audio? I'm just going to say this outright before I get to mine. I think we have to take in somewhat the context of the time as far as the quality, but as far as like actual audio, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, they were doing as well as they could, I would say. Some of the things that I really like about the audio of this game is that it had a really nice variety and things that would kind of trigger and denote, like a successful shot. Like the variety they had, that was to me when they started getting into like every shot will have a different audio thing.
Yeah.
Addams Family started to do this, like you hit Cousin Eddie squeaks, some like things like that. I looked this up when I was reading about it. I remember this. There was a part of the Fast Lock thing. They would do this like radio, and it would do callbacks to other of Lawler's games: Addams Family, Funhouse, Whirlwind, Earthshaker. So every once in a while, if you hit the right shot, you'd hear like Rudy or some of these other things like in it. So for that reason, I'm probably gonna give it a 9 because it was really pushing audio for the games back then. I wouldn't put it up there as like high as like probably some of my favorite games, but it's right up there, and that's because of like the variety that it was dealing out when you're hitting shots.
I'm exactly in the same spot. I'm at a 9. Quality aside, I think that the uniqueness of the sounds in all the shots is up there with Addams Family. Like in Addams Family, I'm just thinking knock 3 times or bear kick, bear kicks, all that kind of stuff. Those call outs, the replay sound in Addams Family, all of it, in Twilight Zone, it's the same thing. Not necessarily, I would say, the call outs, but just the sounds of the game. If I hear the sounds of Twilight Zone, I know exactly what it is instantly. It's like hearing the Star Wars theme song. You know what it is. And if it's that, memorable, I think it deserves some high praise. There's this YouTube video. I'll probably put some clips in here. If you I think it's Google like Twilight Zone pinball sounds. It's 40 minutes of just all the sounds mashed together in the music in the Twilight pinball machine. There's a lot more than I think even today that they put thought and love from the audio side into games. I think this is one of the highest points, if not the highest points of the game, is the audio. Quality aside, as far as bitrate, but it was like a full production movie audio to me back then. Well, if I add up these scores for each of us, we're actually very close, which means we're on the right path, I would say. You're at a 38, and I'm at a 37. You multiply both these shits by 2, you get a 76. I'm at a 74. Emotionally, to me, it's a lot higher, and just because of its sentimentality of what it did to pinball and to me, and I don't want to speak for you, but would you rate the game as a C overall, or would you personally think something different?
I would say if you didn't know anything, you're just walking into a room of 10 pinball machines. I feel like that's probably where it would rank for someone who didn't know anything.
Okay.
They'd like get confused about it. They wouldn't know the IP and some of these other things. Like, for me, it's like A at the top because of like nostalgia, because of connections. I typically, as an Addams Family owner, like that more stop and go, kind of like shot to shot, like work the game, kind of trigger events type things. So for me, it's way up there. It's like an A, but I can totally understand that, this is me just being a young kid playing the game and being like, this reminds me of being young. And that like someone who's 20 now would shrug their shoulders and be like, oh, okay. And one of the novelties we didn't talk about was the ceramic ball. That was kind of like
my, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that was, that would get people over to watch is when that different ball would come out.
Yeah.
One of the things that always kind of made me feel less about it is it typically never worked anywhere you found it.
Yeah.
There was always parts broken.
Including the one I had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was kind of a thing that I would say I would run into games in the wild, and my opinion of the likelihood of them being functioning and working, my opinion of that game often not being functioning, I should not give that game a high grade. It's unreliable. Like I'm going to put 50 cents in and 3 of the things aren't going to work, and I've wasted my time. And so nostalgia-wise, A, critical, rational, 21st century opinion, probably a C.
Yeah. Same. I think C is right. In all the games I've owned, would I own it again? No. How many pinball machines would I have to own it? A lot. And even then, probably because like you said, fixing it. I mean, when I had it, I had to fix it immediately. And being that old, like if it's a mechanic usually like a Switch or something, you're fine. But if you're talking board work, get out of here. I don't want to deal with it. And yeah, it's a double-edged sword. The more toys you put in, the more things might break. So when it's a well-oiled machine and it's back in the day and I'm smoking Marbreds, it's a lot higher. But overall, blank slate. I think C is where it belongs.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, hey, thanks for joining me. There's definitely more we can talk about in the future, but yeah, even if you're not talking on here, you're one of the only people I'm texting on the side when I'm talking about pinball machines. If there's one in the future you want to talk about as well, I'd love to have you on again. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for giving your thoughts on Twilight Zone. Thanks for helping me pick this game up and carry it across the football field. All that stuff.
Always an adventure, and it was fun. Anything pinball. Happy to come back. Pleasure to be here.
All right, thanks, man. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
I personally hope to have all three of these guests join me in the future. Maybe not Meff,
Shut the fuck up, mate.
but the second two. My lovely wife Dana, thank you for joining me in the Pinball Pantry. I look forward to trying what I know. I don't look forward to trying what we're trying next week. I'm in fact fearful. So look forward to that. Also look forward to hopefully Sam in the future. Super knowledgeable pinball guy. Love to hear his thoughts. And then, of course, we'll continue talking about James Bond. I just finished watching Cobra Kai, so I want to talk about speculating on a Cobra Kai / Karate Kid pinball machine. Also, yes, please, can we have it? Again, any questions, comments, and concerns, thoughts, please send them to pinballpartypodcast@gmail.com. Like everyone else who's done it, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the suggestions. Please send in suggestions for the Pinball Pantry. And next week, I will review the next game I bought after Twilight Zone. Give my thoughts on that. Until next time, thank you for joining episode 4. We'll see you in episode 5.